You know, I'm trying to be optimistic about James Gunn's new DCEU, but unlike what I did with my ex last year, I cannot keep ignoring all these red flags. Hi y'all, SnarkyJay cosplay here. So after the huge power shakeup at DC that saw the chronically online James Gunn somehow now heading our new DC universe, I've honestly started to try to look into what it is that he's doing to find silver linings in what's going on. But this week, more than ever, I'm starting to find holes in my thinly veiled optimism and starting to realize that this guy is literally the biggest hypocrite that has probably ever made a superhero movie, and that's saying something because everybody in Hollywood is a hypocrite, basically. So let's dive right into this. James Gunn got started on his new DCU by basically setting fire to all that was left of the Snyderverse. Despite Henry Cavill's claims that he was going to be back as Superman, he was basically axed from the role. Ben Affleck and the rest of the Snyderverse supposedly were also fired, even though James Gunn likes to play coy and not answer these questions on Twitter while also responding to literally everything else. Everything but my request to get a job as Catwoman, apparently, so that's why I'm gonna keep doing this. Anyways, these firings were a huge move for James Gunn to make right out of the gate, and they basically set the tone for what kind of reboot this would be. By firing arguably some of the greatest parts of the Snyderverse, like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, it seemed like this reboot was basically gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we were gonna get something entirely fresh. At least that's what it seemed like at the beginning. And then it turned out that in true James Gunn fashion, he was going to be keeping his little misfit groups that he really liked, like the Peacemaker show. Nobody is getting recast in that. That makes sense. It was arguably one of the more successful parts of the DCU recently, so obviously keeping a lot of those characters does make some sense. But in my opinion, it seems like James Gunn is just cherry picking what he wants and doesn't want. For instance, The Flash was supposed to be this huge reboot point, right? But now James Gunn says that it resets some things, but not all things. And one of the things that it doesn't reset is Peacemaker and a bunch of the characters that appeared in Suicide Squad. For instance, Viola Davis is still going to be playing Amanda Waller. And to be honest, that's not even one of my major issues with this. I think Viola Davis is an absolutely amazing actress, but in my opinion, Henry Cavill was also amazing as Superman and he got fired. So, still bitter about that. Now, even though it seemed like James didn't want to recast people that had already had jobs within the DCEU in other roles, apparently that's exactly what he's doing. James recently decided that he was going to let multiple people have multiple jobs within the DCU because one thing is being on screen for live action films and another thing is having a role in some of the more animated features like the upcoming Creature Commandos. Interestingly enough, one of the people that's mentioned as having a role in Creature Commandos that was already in another live-action DCU movie and is now going to be in yet another project is Sean Gunn. If that name does sound familiar to you, good, because it's James Gunn's brother who he really likes to keep employed. The guy is also in the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. He played Weasel in The Suicide Squad. He's going to have a role in the upcoming animated feature Creature Commandos, and he's also now been given the role of Maxwell Lord. You know, the character that made an appearance in Wonder Woman 1984 as played by Pedro Pascal. Now Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother, who looks nothing like any comic book iterations of Maxwell Lord, he's going to be playing him because honestly, it seems like James Gunn is hell-bent on cutting a check for every member of his family. So, you know, get rid of a really good Bruce Wayne and Ben Affleck and get rid of Henry Cavill, easily the best part of the Snyderverse, but keep on employing Sean Gunn because what would we do without him? And on another note, he recently made a response to somebody on Twitter talking about cameo porn. Now, of course, this is when a film shoehorns as many characters, fan favorites or otherwise, as possible into appearances just to get people buzzing online and going to watch the movies. Now, James Gunn made sure to let us know that he hates this, that this is one of the worst elements of recent superhero films, and that's what Superman Legacy isn't going to be. He's going to make sure that he doesn't do cameo porn in any of his projects because it's abhorrent and he doesn't believe in it. Where did I see recent cameo porn? Oh, The Flash, which had almost an 8-minute segment of cheaply animated CGI cameos just to get us to go f***ing watch it, because at that point nobody wanted to put money in the pockets of Ezra f***ing Miller. And you might be looking at me with my little kitty cat claws, pissing yourself off ever more and getting ready to comment, Jay, you know damn well that James Gunn had nothing to do with The Flash. That was before his time. How dare you? Yeah, do you remember what James Gunn said about The Flash? That it was amazing and probably one of the greatest superhero movies of all time? I actually didn't dislike The Flash, but I would never have the gall to say that it was one of the greatest superhero films of all time. Especially when that was one of my big complaints, right? Was the fact that it devolved into cameo porn. So somebody who dislikes the whole cameo parades as much as James Gunn does, for him to say that a movie that basically made its money off cameos was one of the greatest superhero films of all time? Come on. All of these little bits and pieces probably just seem like I'm nitpicking, but to me, it feels like the reboot of the DCU is not going to be the DC savior that we all want it to be. James Gunn, kind of like me, is so active on social media that he can't help but stick his foot in his mouth by saying stupid shit and constantly contradicting himself. The drama surrounding James Gunn's history of disgusting and perverse tweets, the hypocrisy surrounding what he's constantly talking shit about online, these are all things that the upcoming DCU has to be free of, because we've had enough suffering, we've seen these characters done wrong over and over, we've had enough box office flops to last us a lifetime. We need fresh blood that is less dramatic and less willing to talk shit on Twitter all day, because this has to stop. Now, if James Gunn wants to do something right for this new reboot, I, as a lifelong fan of DC and somebody who really believes in it and wants to see it succeed, this is an action that I personally would suggest he take. I suggest he cast a completely unknown 5'3", half-Cuban, cat fanatic to play the new Catwoman. Might be a YouTuber, might be a cosplayer, might just have almost every version of anything she's ever worn. I'm not saying casting me as Catwoman would literally fix the entire DC reboot problem, but I think it would be a good start. That's all from me. I've been SnarkyJay. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. For more SnarkyJay, be sure to check me out on Instagram. And if you'd like to support my content creation while getting access to some fabulous photo shoot sets in the process, be sure to check out and subscribe to my Patreon. I will add links to both in the description below. And let me know your thoughts on James Gunn's recent internet nonsense in the comments below.